Hi, today we are delighted to interview Sally Urdang, right? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Great.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So Sally is a yoga instructor and a personal trainer with special affinity to senior adults. Hello, Sally. How are you?
Hello, I'm so good. Thanks so much for having me and doing this interview. I'm honored to talk.
So Sally, you have been teaching yoga to seniors since 2017.
Yeah, yeah.
And your clients, their age ranges between 60 and 86.
Yeah. I've got private clients that are age 86, and then the two eldest participants in my classes are 94.
Wow, 94. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
To meet her, him, is it a she or a he?
Two females, actually, and I'm honored to be in their presence. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you're based in Kansas City, Missouri, but you started offering online services on a virtual platform that we will talk about later.
Yeah.
Is it an accurate description of what you're doing? Can you please tell us more about yourself?
Sure. What I'm doing or about me personally?
About you and about what you're doing.
Okay, so I started my journey with seniors about 5 years ago, actually, maybe even a little bit more. I started working at a YMCA here in Kansas City. And if you're not from, I'm sure YMCA is nation or international, but if it's not, it's an incredible organization. And it's especially focused on seniors and those who cannot afford wellness financially, and it makes it very financially accessible for them. I offer senior aerobic. I offer chair yoga classes. I also offer yoga classes for varied abilities. And long story short, I've been doing this for about full-time for about 3 years, and there's not enough people doing it. And maybe that's how you got into it too. I will say we don't necessarily see seniors all the time because they're in their home a lot due to maybe transportation, their ability, physical ability, or financial situation, whatever dynamic. We won't see them. Maybe they don't have transportation to get out of their home, or it's not safe for them to do so. These are all people that exist in this world, are still very much a part of the community and a part of people's lives and are living their own life, and I want to access them. So I know they exist. I know these seniors exist if they don't leave their home, and I offer chair yoga classes to seniors that also come to day centers. So a whole myriad of different places that I teach, and I've taught in basements and hallways, and a whole crazy amount of spaces that have nothing to do with this nice Zen environment of yoga. And that's where the yoga practice becomes incredibly applicable. Yoga is a state of being. It has very little actually to do with the physical body. And in that way, it's very accessible for seniors because sometimes the dynamic changes physically with seniors. And then it's like, for some reason, the world has shut them off from accessibility and programming. And the yoga practice, it can literally, if you can breathe, you can do yoga. And even if you are on an oxygen dynamic situation, you can still practice. And it's just a wonderful thing. So it's my life's work. So please ask away if you have any more questions. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but...
Actually, I'm kind of interested, and I'm asking that a lot of the people that I'm interviewing. Why seniors? Do you have any personal story which is related, or just decided that you wish to work with seniors?
Yeah. Okay. So great question. So both, yes. So first and foremost, my father is a varied ability. In fact, he has and is going to continue to go on with some amputations in his feet. He's diabetic. I wanted to offer to him something that I knew could be a resource. So he was kind of an inspiration. And then also for the senior side, I think I have, it's a great question. I'm going to take it a little bit outside of this perspective of really I honor anyone who is practicing the physical practice of yoga, asana. Asana is great. If you're familiar with the yoga practice, the physical postures are called asanas, or some people pronounce it asana, but it's really asana. And that's 1/8 of the yoga practice, the physical portion. So if you put that into perspective, what are the other 7 about? And they all have to do with upstairs. And for me, there is such an identity with the physical body that even as a person I'm 29, and I am of able-bodied, I am not currently working in any sort of a varied ability dynamic. It's kind of dry. It's a little, I don't want to say overdone, but it's just not where I want to see people who would never think about showing up to a yoga class. I want to teach them. And I want to make it resourceful, impactful in their lives, and that they can always call upon. And so I am honored that there are teachers who teach able-bodied people to do contortionist positions with their body, but that is not what I need to offer, because my practice, my personal yoga practice, is so much deeper than the physical postures. It's an embodied lifestyle. It's an exercise of the mind that I use at every moment. And I wanted to offer that to people that aren't currently receiving it. And so that's exactly what I do. So that's really why I'm doing it. But I have no discrimination towards people who are able to do, get up and off of a yoga mat and do all these crazy postures. But the practice is much deeper. And that's kind of one of my goals, is to spread that word that literally everyone can do it. And especially with social media, it's been spreading this word that yoga is for young people or really thin women, not men, but women. And that's so far from the truth. But unless the teachers, the people who have been certified to spread the message are spreading it, if they're not, then who's going to know that it's accessible to seniors or people who are working in a quadriplegic lifestyle? No one's representing that unless they're doing it in their communities. That's what I'm doing.
Sally, I believe that you actually answered also our next question about conceptions of yoga. So I'll ask you, what is unique about yoga for seniors? What is the difference between teaching, not just teaching, practicing yoga for seniors? What is unique and different between seniors and younger adults?
Yeah, great question. Mostly what yoga is taught is the physical practice, so I'll go from there. There are people who are doing it beyond physical practice, but if it's being offered for seniors, it's typically done in a chair. And though chair classes are accessible to any person regardless of their age or physical ability, yoga for seniors is working first in the 6 movements of the spine, so bending left and right, forward flexion and extension, and then twisting left and right. So it's very important that seniors receive those 6 movements of the spine really every day. If you don't do yoga, no problem, but it's very important to get seniors moving in that way, that spinal mobility, especially over time as the spine can become compressed or the back can become very tender or injured. And then also to work in functional mobility of the joints. So the yoga practice for seniors specifically is not about getting the body into shapes. It's mostly about continuing or re-lubricating joints that have become a little bit maybe dry or immobile due to injury, lack of exercise or movement, etc. And so we're kind of getting things unstuck. So not so much focus on again, these shapes, but more of how can we work with what the joints, the muscles of the body are supposed is not the right word, functioning, are supposed to be doing functional-wise. How can we get those to be relubricated, reused, and reintroduce that into the body? So oftentimes when seniors come to yoga classes, they're really looking for mobility. I have written off the word flexibility from my vocabulary. I don't even use the word flexibility anymore. I use the word mobility. And I focus, and I think a lot of senior classes focus on basic functional mobility so that when they leave the chair, the yoga studio, the day center, wherever they are, that they're able to use those concepts, those physical movements and basic mobility postures to grab the can of soup out of their pantry, or lean down and grab something off of the floor, get up from the toilet, things like that that are not maybe as discussed until you really immerse yourself into a senior community. And so with that knowledge, the senior community's knowledge and what seniors are working towards, like fall prevention, balance, dexterity of the joints, mobility, basic mobility, then the yoga practice becomes how to maintain and how to reintroduce movements that people may have not done in a while. I mean, asking a senior to lift their arm over their head is a lot to ask. And rightfully so, maybe, because that's the mobility that they've been working in and they haven't been able to reach up. And we work on creating that mobility again, because this is functional, to reach for something overhead. It's functional. So we're not really working, the difference I have to say, if I had to sum it up, is that we're not working to become flexible and maybe do positions that we normally wouldn't do as we're walking down the sidewalk, and instead working towards mobility so that walking down the sidewalk is more comfortable, or getting up out of bed is more comfortable. It's more accessible. Going out to dinner with your family is okay, rather than not being able to. So giving someone a hug or holding someone's hand, all things that which we work on. So that's the difference.
That's great. And actually, I wanted to ask you something. One of the major injuries of seniors is due to falls. Can yoga assist that?
Yeah. So fall prevention is interesting because typically seniors seek out fall prevention either through like their day center or maybe sometimes through their doctor. But fall prevention often happens actually after a fall, so the fall's already happened. And I'm not going to say that for everybody by all means, especially with 7 billion people in the world, but I will say fall prevention for yoga classes is through the strengthening of a yoga class. So lifting your leg with the bent knee, seated in a chair, stimulates the quadricep muscles of the legs, that big thigh muscle. We tone the core in chair yoga by doing non-assisted, so no hands, leaning forward and sitting back up. We engage the big muscles of the back to help keep the body upright. And we work on posture. We work on tucking the chin back, where this posture is very common in seniors, getting the head forward. It's really common in all people because of cell phones. But and technology, we're all kind of going that way, but it's especially common in seniors. And so we definitely can prevent falls as long as the chair yoga class is offering how to stay upright. And for some chair yoga classes, if it's in the mobility and ability of the senior, we work with the chair, but we stand up out of the chair. So it really depends on the physical ability of the senior, but we can do standing on one leg while holding onto the chair, even with both hands. And we can work on posture while holding onto the chair or using a strap, things that essentially prevent the senior from going forward, because a senior is often already jutting their head forward, which means typically their shoulders are rounding. That's a very common posture of seniors. Not everybody, but it's very common. And when there's that forward rounding already happening in the body and it's not getting corrected, and the yoga practice really does correct it by opening, expanding the front body. When it's not being corrected, the momentum is already forward. And so if a senior trips over something, they're not already standing upright. They're actually halfway there in their posture. So the yoga practice is really nice because we'll hold on to both sides of the chair. We'll express through the chest, so we lift our collarbones, and then we can lean forward, almost like a back bend, to express the chest and get this stretch. And a lot of seniors say that this area of the body is really tight for them. through like the sternum, through the chest muscles, into the shoulder heads and collarbone. This area is really tight, but they're not stretching it. They just know that they're rounded forward. And through fall prevention, we help express that area and help them sit more upright. So, and balance too, there's a lot of balance that we can do in yoga, so long as the senior is able to get up out of the chair. If they're not, we can still do it sitting down. But yeah, there's quite a bit, and especially with posture. I think posture is one of those things that people aren't talking about enough, and especially with cell phones in the hands, we're all starting to round forward anyway, that it's really important to express the front body so that people can see, seniors especially, with their eyeballs. What's before me there? Is that an obstacle? Rather than dipping the head down and not being able to anticipate, what is ahead of them. So.
And actually, a follow-on question.
Mm-hmm.
You have a cat.
Hi. Let me move him out of the way. He's going to be the feature of this film if I don't get him out of the way. His name is Ham.
Helping you with the lessons.
Right.
So actually, a follow-on question.
Yeah.
Sometimes after falls, senior lose confidence. Can yoga actually increase the confidence and bring them back to being mobile?
Yep, totally. I would say falls can be super taxing, especially on the pelvis and the back and the big bones of the legs, ankles and such. So we can do mobility exercises while sitting in a chair, so there's not as much of a risk of falling, and still be able to re-strengthen those joints. That helps support us and hold us up. Things get really tense after a fall, and the senior, confidence-wise, as you said, is losing confidence and feeling unsafe. So one of the things I like to do in the yoga class is to very openly discuss regaining your power, taking back your power when you feel like you've lost it. Maybe you're now using a cane or a walker, or you no longer are able to drive, etc. These things, falls, where the senior feels like they've lost control, and then regain control by saying, I still have control over my body. I'm still working on my posture. I'm still strengthening my muscles. And even if there's a broken pelvis in this situation, in the dynamic, still giving the senior, even emotionally and mentally, the idea that they really do hold all of the control in their daily activities, their daily movement. And one of the things that's interesting, I wouldn't say this really lightly, but one of the things that I find very interesting is that with seniors, I feel like oftentimes they're kind of spoken to in a shorthand way. And I'm being very gentle about this because I don't want to step on any toes. But one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of healthcare professionals or even family members, and family members is actually a big part of this, they speak to their elder as though it's just the way it is. And when a loved one or a trusted professional is stating that this is the new way and this is just the way it is, they've literally taken the control and power away from the senior.
Yeah, I agree. We actually have an article on that, how actually a family member, how there is a turnover between being like a child and then becoming, becoming the adult. And this is exactly what you're talking about. You start talking with your family, with your father or mother, like he is the child. And this is...
Yes. They are so wise, and not only are they wise, they also know how to keep the peace, even if it's at a, even if it's compromising their mental well-being. So they may not say anything to their child, who's an adult, or their caretaker, who is essentially, as you stated, like you said in your article, is essentially a resource for either positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. And so it's like being spoken to as a child, but yet you're the most wisest and long-living person in your community or your family or your dynamic, your partnership, whatever. And there's like this shift that needs to happen, that we should be honored to be in their presence, and speak to them and give them back their power. You know, one of the things I like to say is, if I had to put myself in their shoes, and I know this is so common, but like, if I had to put myself in their shoes and a doctor or a family member was speaking to me this way, what would I do? I would tell them, pause. I don't feel like you have my well-being at the forefront of your mind. But seniors will not do that, because I think oftentimes seniors are on that line of, I don't want anyone to be gone from my life. I need my support system. But even the dialogue of how family members or caretakers or healthcare professionals speak to seniors needs to change, to give seniors the power back. Seniors don't just lose it, even if they're feeling pretty low, unless that conversation is being perpetuated. If it's continuing through the trusted professional, the trusted family member, healthcare professional, whatever. If it's being started with people they trust, then why would they feel confident? It's almost simple logic. And these people are really wise, so I'm so glad that you wrote an article on that. That's so important to me. I could go on for hours of that. I've had quite an interesting experience. I do a lot of in-home work, so I'll go to homes, and I'm sure your wife can say the same thing. Going into homes is a totally different ball game, and you see family dynamic at its raw self. And I remember a client of mine, and I won't give any information about who they are or anything, but I remember going into a client's house, and I was working with this individual, and this person was very much at the state of being bedridden, and their daughter came in and to observe me guiding this chair practice for their mother. And I was guiding the patient through meditation, and the client's eyes were closed, looking very peaceful and very relaxed. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, her daughter says, "Mom, pay attention." I could have just spit. I was just like, she is paying attention. She's meditating, and you're taking her away, and you're taking control out of her. I think this concept of thinking that people are, yes, there's such thing as dementia and levels of that and levels of Alzheimer's. I understand that, and different cognitive variations of the self as the person gets older, or even not. But I will say, this dialogue of talking down to an elder is taking their power away. So yes, and your question started with falls, and can after a fall people feel confident? 110%, but the entire community around that person needs to speak in a positive manner, because there is, even energetically, if not physically, progression that can be done to maintain confidence. It doesn't have to just be physically. It can be energetically, emotionally, and mentally. That can be so easily taken away from them.
I totally agree. We deviated a bit from yoga, but it is very important what you're saying, because it's basically the way to interact with it. It doesn't matter if it's yoga or anything else. If you don't interact in a correct manner with them, you lose them. You can't cope with them.
Yeah, totally.
Another question regarding yoga practice. How frequent should senior practice? How long each session typically lasts, or a matter of the person that you're working with?
So that's a great question. First and foremost, if there's ever a point of pain, stop. Never should there be pain. If you're pushing and that causes pain, back off. The duration of a practice typically runs between 30 minutes to an hour. I know personally, I don't teach really too many hour-long practices. 45 minutes seems to kind of be the sweet spot. 30 minutes, great. Anything less than 30 minutes is okay. It's doing it for sure. I would say if there's less than 30 minutes, prioritize breath work and prioritize the 6 movements of the spine, what I said earlier. So this left and right hinging, forward flexion and extension, and twisting left and right. Those are really important. So you can get that done in 20 minutes, But I would definitely say a 30 to 45-minute practice is a sweet spot. In regards to how often, if it's possible to do it every day, do it. Now, I know, because we're all human, you're like, I don't want to do this every day. The yoga practice has so many different formats. So it could be meditation. It could be one day the physical practice. It could be one day breathing. It could be a mix of things. It could be self-study, which is a huge practice and its own limb of yoga. So I would say, if not every day, a couple of times a week, because what we're trying to do is recreate or reroute this blood flow back into the body, bring it right back in, even if things have become static or stagnant, tight, even with arthritis. We want to be able to lubricate the joints so that when we need to use them, they can be used. It's important to get it done as much as possible and what is affordable. There's a lot of free resources online for chair yoga, and there's a lot of free resources for breath work and meditation. And all of these are accessible to a senior. If they don't have internet, then maybe finding a person in their area that can look up some YouTube videos and then start to teach them, or read some articles too, maybe check a book out from the library. But I would say, 3 times a week would be fabulous. 5 times a week would be really great. And what we're trying to do, as I said earlier, is what the difference between maybe like a young person doing yoga on a mat and a senior doing yoga is that what we're really trying to do is re-lubricate the joints and get this functional mobility to come back. And in that way, it can be done. It can't be done enough unless it's painful. If it's painful or causing discomfort, back off a little bit for sure. But the more the merrier. These are things that a senior maybe isn't doing every day. Is a senior reaching their arm up, coming back down, and maybe doing that a few more times? Is a senior, when was the last time they heard their breath? All of these things that are concepts that are invited into the yoga practice that can be done and are very accessible to do every day. And that's where the yoga practice becomes way more than the physical practice. It becomes meditation and breath work and beyond. So yeah, as often as possible.
And I think it's true also for younger adults, not just for seniors. I come from the high tech, and I know we're sitting all day, and training 3 to 5 times a week is super important.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to actually to finish this our discussion by asking you regarding online yoga. You started talking about that, and I wanted to ask what you think about online yoga. For me, the great thing about online, and it's not just looking at YouTube, but actually talking to a person and doing it live, is that you work with people like you. I'm sitting here in Israel and I'm talking to you in the United States, and perhaps I can't find people like you, around here where I live. So for me, this is a great opportunity, and I wanted to ask you about Fit My Time and about online yoga. What do you think? Do you think this is something that that works? Do you think it's something which is good?
If I had to choose between one or the other, I wouldn't choose either one necessarily. I think face-to-face live is super great. As I said earlier, just before that, you can find something on YouTube, but what one-on-one or even online in a group and then a teacher being on the other side of the screen, what that offers is the teacher is able to observe what the practitioner is doing and then make adjustments based on what they're getting feedback on or what they can feel energetically. And right now, you and I are speaking over a computer, and you're 8 hours away from me in regards to time. You're totally different. You're in a different country, which is incredible. I'm honored to be speaking to you, but it's incredible. But I feel your warmth. I don't want to assume that you feel mine, but I feel your warmth, and you seem very friendly, and I don't feel at all like our conversation or our dynamic is hindered based on the fact that we're talking via computer. So what essentially Fit My Time is an online platform in which the practitioner can hire an instructor of all different modalities. So for me, I offer yoga and personal training, accessible yoga and accessible and adaptive personal training to seniors really specifically. Also, those of varied ability I do work with as well. And there are all different modalities. There's Pilates instructors, meditation instructors, breathwork instructors, high intensity, workout instructors. There's low impact aerobics. There's a whole myriad of offerings on Fit My Time. And essentially what you do as a practitioner is select whomever you want, maybe have an online discussion or at least a few messages online between the teacher and the practitioner before you get started. And then you hire that person and do a meeting kind of like what we're doing live. And they essentially work with you one-on-one, or maybe in a group if that's what you are doing. It's one-on-one. I think it's really mostly focused on getting the opportunity to the person. So if they find that they're not in a community living, the practitioner isn't in a community where there's a fitness center or community center or a yoga instructor, it's like there's just, no such thing as that in their community. Fit My Time offers that without having to leave your home. And that's the other part of Fit My Time. There's no need to leave your home. And especially in what I offer, all you need is a chair. And I know that almost everybody has one. And one of the things that I love about seniors is that they typically have a chair and they typically have a television. And that makes everything so much easier and so much more accessible. And if they happen to have a computer, they can use Fit My Time. If they have a television, they can find another organization that might be offering what they need via the television. So for what I offer, a chair is really all that's required. If you have a belt would be great, or a big book like an encyclopedia. That's also really helpful to help elevate the feet a little bit further off the ground. So yeah, I think it's a fabulous way to do the teacher and practitioner dynamic. And again, it kind of like yoga in general, Fit My Time takes away the barrier, if there is one, and makes it accessible again. So, this concept of, well, I don't know any yoga instructor. It's, you know me now and I know you now, and you could hire me to become a yoga instructor for you, be a yoga instructor for you. And again, I think this digital space is still warm and still really inviting and can offer a lot. And especially to a senior who doesn't necessarily feel comfortable showing up to a chair yoga practice or trying to ask their community, they can do it very privately without anybody having to know, even their family members. And again, as I went back to previously in the conversation, regaining some control. You have the control to hire whomever you want, to do whatever you want, and giving seniors that control without having to say, I rely on my family to take me to this class. Fit My Time says, I'm coming to you. In your home, you don't have to go anywhere. So I think that's really kind of sums it up, what they offer. Fit My Time is an incredible program, and the woman, Yael, who runs it, is incredible. She's so kind and just a gentle person, really, really trying to focus on accessibility, and it's great. It's a great program. I recommend it.
Actually, Sally, I want you for my yoga instructor. Yeah. Sally, thank you for this fascinating interview. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah. And to all our viewers, we hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you have questions for Sally or questions about Fit My Time, you can send them via this video or through Facebook or email, and we will answer them, of course.
Totally.
Thank you very much, and see you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you all so much.